Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So today's quote from the Bible that we all heard in the reading just now is one of those that's very profound and can be applicable to all kinds of situations in life. So I want to unpack it a little bit and see what kind of gifts come out of that box. The quote is from the Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse number 5, and it says, "The light shineth in the darkness, but the darkness comprehended it not." We tend to think of darkness as the absence of light. So if I go into my room tonight and I shut all the doors and there's only one door, I shut the door and draw down the blinds and there is no outside source of light, then my room is dark, right? This is our experience. It has walls and floor and furniture and my body, they're all in the room, but none of those are luminous by themselves. They need an outside source of light to reflect it. So this is material reality. That matter is dark, light is light, and when light falls on matter, we see, that's how I see the podium, that's how I see my notes, and so on. Spiritual reality is the exact opposite of this. We are made of light. Paramahansa Yogananda, whose teachings, as most of you know, we follow here, he said, units of divine light, finer than electrons, are the bricks out of which matter is composed. And he went on to say further that when I close my eyes in ecstasy, I see everything melting into this divine light. But we don't see it, if we turn off the lights here and shut all the glass that's around here, then comes into darkness. Why is that? It's a very charming episode in the autobiography of a yogi where Sri Yukteswar is second gentleman with the long beard. He was the guru of Paramahansa Yogananda. And one day he is expecting to see Babaji. Now, Babaji is a really big deal. He is that second gentleman. From the other side, he is Sri Yukteswar's guru's guru. So it's a big deal to see him because he has a special power by which he only appears to you if he desires so. So Sri Yukteswar is filled with anticipation and he goes to see Babaji and he's not there. Sri Yukteswar is a little bit annoyed, sulking almost, and when he sees Babaji later, he says, "Sir, you were not there. You said you would be." And Babaji says, "My child." Now we have to remember, Babaji, even though he's impossibly old, maybe 700 or 1,000 years old at the time, appears as a youth of about 25. And Sri Yukteswar, as you can see, is this imposing man with a flowing white beard and kind of indomitable looking. But Babaji says, "My child." And Sri Yukteswar says, "Yes, sir." And I was hiding behind the sunlight. Your gaze is not faultless. You must meditate more. This is the kind of drama that the great masters put on for our benefit so we can learn. But dwell on that for a moment. I was hiding behind sunlight. We normally hide behind a door, we hide under the bed. Why? Because a door is solid, a bed is solid, so people can't see us. Sunlight is what illuminates everything. What does it mean to hide behind sunlight? The divine light is so ethereal, it is so subtle that even sunlight, which illuminates everything, is like a dark screen in front of divine light because it's not visible to the material eye. This is the light that shineth in darkness, not this light or the light from the outside, but this astral light of which everything is made. And we are back to the question, fine. Everything's made, if this little mic here is made of astral light, why do I see this as a black ugly thing? It's not that ugly, but you know what I'm saying. Why don't I see it as divine light? So back to Sri Yukteswar. Sri Yukteswar wrote a very profound book called The Holy Science. And in that book, he gives us the answer, not in direct terms, but in chapter 1, verse number 4, I'll quote it in Sanskrit and then I'll translate each word for you so you get a sense of it. He says, Tadeva jagat karanam maya ishwarasya tasya vyashthir avidya. Tadeva jagat karanam. Jagat refers to the universe. All manifest creation, the atoms and energy and everything, a galaxy 2 billion years away and a proton and a quark a billionth of a centimeter small, it's all of that is Jagat. Jagat Karanam. Karana means cause or what holds it together. Tadeva Jagat Karanam, Sri Yukteswar is saying, what holds the universe together. Maya Ishwarasya. Ishvara is the generic name for God. Maya is delusion. It is the delusion of God that holds the universe together. I'm going somewhere with this. I'll come back to divine light in a moment. What is it that we are deluded about? Yogananda called it the mass hypnosis of God. The delusion is that we only believe as real that which we perceive through the senses. If I cannot see it, touch it, taste it, smell it, and feel it, or hear it, then it is not real. Now, this is not how we were brought up. It's not a matter of education. On creation, our mind is biased, is habituated, is inclined to think of it that way. So literally blinders on. And therefore, we miss everything that cannot be felt to the senses. So that is what we are deluded about. Tadeva jagat karanam maya ishvarasya. If for a moment I or you or anybody in this room or anywhere else opened our eyes to a larger reality and were completely convinced, and we completely get over this habit of believing only what we perceive through the senses, then in that moment, the yogis say, this is thrilling, in that moment the universe ceases to exist. Jagat Karanam. The reason the universe exists is because of the mass delusion. The dream of God, it is called. Tadeva jagat karanam maya ishvarasya. The second part, tasya vyashthir avidya. Now this part's kind of interesting. As it is outside, so it is on the inside. This is the principle of the universe. There are planets going around the sun, and we have, that is reflected in us within our astral spine. Similarly, maya, delusion, is a cosmic thing. What is the individual aspect of it? Vyashti means individualized. Samashti means cosmic. Maya is samashti, cosmic. What is? Vyashti, individualized. Tasya vyashtir avidya. Avidya means ignorance. This is kind of interesting. So we are deluded about something, and we are individually, therefore, as a result of it, we are ignorant of something else. What are we ignorant of? The answer is not what you might expect. The yogis say that we are ignorant of the fact that we are all really one. We are ignorant of the fact that our higher identity is divine, not individual. In other words, the sense of I-ness, the separateness, is ignorance, that my happiness is measured by how much I have or I don't have, and how much people think I am right, how much people pay attention to me. Me, I, the identification and measuring my happiness with the relativity of what I have versus don't have is ignorance. And in fact, just to kind of blow your mind a little bit more, the meaning of the word Maya in Sanskrit is that which measures. So that's how they all kind of come together. Avidya and Maya, ignorance and delusion. These are the two things that prevent us from seeing the divine light. And in fact, this is what is referred to as darkness. Avidya and Maya, the two aspects of darkness. The light that shineth in the darkness, that's what the gospel writer is saying. It's very deep that unlike in the material world, darkness and light coexist. The light doesn't have to eliminate darkness. The darkness has to choose to get eliminated. So I told you I was going to unpack it. So far I have unpacked the light shineth in the darkness. We saw what the light was, what the darkness was. The second part, and the darkness comprehended it not. So let's unpack that a little bit more, because this individualizes the whole thing. So far, this is a nice thing to hear on a Sunday, and then we go forth and sin some more and kind of be okay with it. But there are no consequences of any of this so far, but this next part is the consequences. So I'll tell you the short, charming story of Narada. Now, Narada was when he was born, he was enlightened. Because he was enlightened, there was no birth and rebirth for him since the beginning of creation. This guy Narada has always been there. He's always enlightened. He's always with God, always in divine bliss. He's not happy about this. Okay? Why, you might ask? Because when other self-realized souls gather in the astral and causal plane, they always talk about how powerful the delusion, the Maya of God is, and what they had to do to get over it. And they say, what a ride it was. Narada felt left out. He doesn't know what they are talking about. He's missing out. There's this fear of missing out that he has. So he decides to do something about it. He goes to God. Now, God in those days had incarnated on earth as Krishna, and he was walking among mortals. So he goes to earth and goes to Krishna's palace and says, oh, Narada, so nice to see you. Lord, I'm not very happy. That doesn't make sense. You are in divine bliss. What do you mean you're not happy? Lord, I'm not happy because I don't understand what Maya is. Will you please explain it to me? Because I feel left out of all the conversations. I said, okay, I see what you mean. But it cannot be explained. You have to experience it. Come with me. So Krishna and Narada start walking. They go beyond the palace precincts, beyond the city, and into the desert. And the sun is very hot, and they're walking. Narada is happy. He's walking with God. And Krishna suddenly stops. And he says, I can't walk anymore. His voice is scratchy. Why, Lord? Narada, I'm very thirsty. Will you please fetch me some water? Of course, Lord, I'll fetch you water. So Narada goes off deeper into the desert, walks for who knows how many miles, and sees a village. I have water. He keeps hearing Krishna's voice. Narada, I am thirsty. Please fetch me water. And so he sees a well, and I got what I came for. I'll take the water and go back to my Lord. And there in the well is a beautiful young woman. And he sees her. He says, lady, he's also thirsty by now. He says, lady, will you please give me some water? She says, yes, of course. And she pours from her pot. Narada receives the water. He looks up at her, and he is dumbstruck by her beauty. In that moment, something comes over him, and he says, I have to spend the rest of my life with her. And so, after drinking water, instead of taking the water back to Krishna, he goes up to her father and says, sir, I have something to ask of you. What? Will you please give me your daughter's hand in marriage? And the man doesn't flinch even a little bit. Says, he looks like a strapping young lad. it seems a decent enough sort. Why not? Sure, you can have my daughter's hand in marriage. But I have a condition. You have to commit to staying here. Why? Well, I'm the head man of this village. Everything you see around belongs to me, and you need to take care of it in my old age and after I'm gone. Okay, I'll stay. And Narada gets married, and the idyllic life. There is not a moment of disharmony between him and his wife, and he brings prosperity to the village. The crops are abundant every year that he's there. He goes from strength to strength, completely contented. And somewhere along all of this, the father-in-law has died. Now Narada is the head of the household. He's the head of the village. He is just so happy. They live a moderate life. They help other people and so on. And then one day, the clouds come. Dark clouds, so dark that even the sun is obscured. It feels like night in the middle of the day, and the rain begins to fall. It was like an apocalyptic deluge. And within hours, all the farmland is inundated. The rice crop of this year is completely spoiled. And a few hours after that, the rain is so great that the river begins to flood, and the village begins to get washed away. One by one, those little houses are swept away. Narada's people, my people, he thinks, one by one they die, despite preparations. And soon, flood comes to his own house, which was a little bit elevated. So it takes a while, comes, and his family is swept away too. So is Narada. And within a second, he's had 4 children, and 2 of his children, elder children, they die. They are drowned. And the third child, his favorite, she's clinging to him. She's only 2 years old, and little arm, she's clinging to him. And out of nowhere, a great big wave comes and pulls her away from him. His last memory is seeing his daughter's terrified eyes as she swept away into the dark depths. In the meantime, the mother is holding the youngest child, the little boy, and she's struggling mightily, but she too loses the battle and drowns. And in just a few hours, Narada, who came to this village to fetch water, and it started this great life of contentedness and happiness, the same water came in and took it all away just like that. Narada is inconsolable. He's wailing. How can I live without you? He thinks about his family. And amidst the din of rain and the thunder and the lightning and his own wails, he hears a thin voice in his right ear. Narada, I am thirsty. Will you fetch me water? And the voice grows stronger, and then soon Narada looks up. There is Krishna standing in front of him, smiling. Narada falls at his feet, sobs his heart out, says, Lord, please, I cannot live without my family. I let down all the villagers, bring them back to life. If not, kill me. I can never be happy again. Krishna says, nonsense. He taps Narada on his forehead gently, and it's as if Narada wakes up from a dream. He startles, looks around, the water's gone. It's just the sand of the desert, and Krishna is standing there. And then Krishna and all his pain and suffering is disappearing, just like when we wake up from a nightmare. You're there and say, oh, what a ride it was. It was only a dream. And Krishna, his eyebrows are dancing, his eyes are twinkling. He says, Narada, what do you think of the power of my Maya? Narada says, Lord, the depth and complexity of your Maya is fathomless. Thank you for constantly calling out to me, otherwise I would have never come out of it. So let's break this story down a little bit. When do you think Narada's pain and suffering started? When did it become inevitable? When the rains came? When his family died? No, it started much before. It was that moment when he goes and commits to his future father-in-law that I will turn away from God, I will turn away from Krishna, and I will stay here because getting married to your daughter and staying with her for the rest of my life, that is how I measure my happiness. So it's that commitment away from God, that is Maya and Avidya. So that is, the more he said, my family, my village, my tribe, the less he understood, the less he comprehended what his reality was. The light shineth in the darkness, but the darkness comprehended it not. That's what the gospel writer is saying. Now, the beauty of this whole system is both the light and the darkness are within us, within the astral spine, the Ida, Pingala, and the Sushumna. And in the Sushumna, there are these two poles. The light of God that shineth is here, and the darkness that it shineth in is at the base of the spine. Our commitment to resolutely turn away from God, to seek separateness, is the power of Kundalini, and is a entrenched vitality, irresistible vitality that exists. It pulls us down. But the beauty of this system is that we are predisposed for the light to win over darkness. Eventually it will relentlessly. Krishna keeps calling, Narada, I am thirsty, where is my water? Keeps calling, and when we are completely frustrated with everything outside, all we see is the floodwaters of destruction. Then all the outward sounds and sights become disgusting, and the only thing that remains is, Narada, where is my water? We begin to hear the sound of God, but eventually that will happen. But the masters of our path and the masters of every path have said, don't wait for it. Hasten that process. Now, what can we do to hasten that process? Well, we actively reach for the light. That the entire spiritual path, what we do, the path of Kriya Yoga, for those of us that are Kriya Yogis, the path of meditation in general, is a way of turning away from the senses and sitting there to see or wait for the light to appear. So we are reaching for the light when we meditate. When we do seva, serving others, we share whatever light that we see and thereby make it bigger. We reach for it even more. Living harmoniously among people in communities or within family. The ego gets rubbed and dissolves just a little bit more, it gets sandpapered a little bit, and we reach for the light a little bit more. So the entire spiritual path this is what we do, that the darkness tries to comprehend the light a little bit more. But there is another very beautiful thing about this. About a month and a half ago, I was stuck in a rut of negativity. You know how that happens, it just comes out of nowhere and takes over your life. I felt a lot of resentment, a lot of anger, and I was like, oh, how could they do that to me? And even a little bit of fear. And I couldn't work. I had classes to prepare for, and I had to say things, do things, but this negativity would just bubble up and stop me from doing anything. It felt like anybody that I talked to would say the exact wrong thing from my perspective and kind of make me question myself in fundamental ways. And even meditation, which was often my sanctuary, they were not deep. I couldn't get away from my mind. So after about a week of this, I got really sick of my mind. But where can you go to get away from your mind? Nowhere, because it's always there. The darn thing is always there with you, right? So, and then one day I really asked Master, I said, Master, please make this better. And it was a sincere request simply because I was so frustrated. There's nothing I could do. And then that morning I was practicing yoga, and right in the midst of a fairly complicated yoga pose, I had this clear thought that landed from nowhere. It just landed in my mind. Therefore, I know that I didn't think it. And like I wrote it down, it was clear enough. It said that the strong thought said that my consciousness is stuck lower in my spine. I need to raise it up. And this was a very strong thought that just landed. And the bhav, the feeling behind the thought, was one of urgency, meaning do it right now, that kind of feeling. So I did, there is a very inspiring talk of Swami Kriyananda that I listen to all the time. It's a talk on the path of devotion. So I listened to it for a while. I read a few verses from the Bhagavad Gita which were pertinent to raising the energy and the essence of self-realization. It's a master's sayings captured by Swami Kriyananda. It's one of my go-to books. So I read that. And after about 45 minutes of this negativity, which was like a sick feeling in my stomach, began to ebb away. And all the things that I saw, people said the wrong thing, I put it in perspective and I realized that it was just me reacting from a poor, unrefined consciousness, and the fear went away. And it really was a night and day kind of difference. But what was very interesting about this was it was very non-specific. It's not that I meditated on my problem. And it's not that I tried to find a reading that applied to what I was going through. It was just an act of reaching for the light. It's what clinicians call a non-specific intervention. And this is what Lahiri Mahashaya used to say very famously. No matter what the problem, the disciples came to him. He said, do more kriyas, meaning reach for the light, have God experience as a result of meditation. So the final thought that puts all of this together is this. The light that shineth within us doesn't shine any less because we did something bad, doesn't shine any more because we did something good. The gospel writer just said the light shineth in the darkness, not that the light shineth more in less darkness and less in more darkness. Up, down, even if we do good or evil, it doesn't matter to the light. It's constant. It is always there. The most evil person has the same degree of light that shining in them as it was in fully self-realized souls. And all we need to do, no matter where we are, is to constantly reach for this. So I'll end with this very inspiring saying from Yogananda. He said, whatever comes, good or bad, all will be turned to good if you see God and refuse to acknowledge the power of evil or trouble. Whatever comes, good or bad, all will be turned to good if you see God and refuse to acknowledge the power of evil or trouble.